Thank you, thank you. Don't clap too much, you don't know what's coming. I'd also like to welcome everyone to the National Book Festival and the U.S. Copyright Office's presentation, Find Yourself in Copyright Books. My name is John Stanamore, and I serve as the Assistant Head of the Copyright Office's Public Information Office. Today's presentation follows closely the Copyright Office's new permanent exhibit, Find Yourself in Copyright, found on the 4th floor of the Library of Congress's James Madison Building. It contains over 50 artifacts from the Copyright Office's deposits and library's collections. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a few of those artifacts. My goal is to introduce the basics of copyright, include some history, where copyright is today, demonstrate why copyright is or should be important to you, see how copyright-protected works can inspire us to push creativity even further, explain the role of the Copyright Office, and ultimately show you that you too are part of copyright, and not just an idle observer, but part of the full dynamic of copyright. So I hope you too, at the end, will find yourself in copyright here at the National Book Festival. We're going to be interactive in times. For example, raise your hand if you've ever read a book. I mean, we're at home, you folks can do that too at home. Raise your hand if you've ever watched a movie, listen to music, watch TV. You are users of copyright-protected works. Okay, raise your hand if ever in your entire life written a poem. Okay, got a lot of people. Painted a picture, wrote a book, wrote song lyrics. You can keep them up. Or sing a song, drew pictures, taken photographs, doodled on a notepad during a boring meeting at work. You are all creators of original works, and most of you raised your hands twice. So when we say copyright is for all, we really mean it. The idea of copyright protection predates the United States. England had the Queen Anne Statute in 1610. In 1783, Connecticut became the first state to pass a copyright law, and most other states followed suit. Then in 1787, James Madison submitted a provision to the framers of the Constitution to secure to literary authors their copyrights for a limited time. It was a precursor to the constitutional authority given to Congress to pass federal legislation. Article 1, Section 8 states, Congress shall have the power to promote progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. On May 31st, 1790, George Washington, President, signed into law the Copyright Act of 1790. Now, it was limited in scope. This law just protected maps, charts, and books for 14 years with a renewable term of another 14 years. It directed authors and publishers to register works at the U.S. District Court where they resided. So there was no Copyright Office yet in 1790. The Philadelphia Spelling Book was the first work registered for federal copyright protection. John Barry, a schoolmaster at the Free School of the Protestant Episcopal Church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, registered the book on June 9th, 1790 at the U.S. District Court of Philadelphia. As a former educator myself, it pleases me that it was educational material that was the first type of work to enjoy copyright protection in the United States. So back to hand raising. Anyone here or at home ever use a textbook in school? Some people don't have that. That's the change, right? So the young people here, that's part of the change, right? Is that they don't have textbooks anymore. It's all online. It's all digital. While no complete copy of this book here exists, the Rare Book and Special Collections Division of the library does hold the printed title page shown here and 2 pages of the actual book that John Barry deposited for copyright. Now, back at the library, the centerpiece of our exhibit is one of the most recognizable and perhaps largest sculptural work registered for copyright protection. The Statue of Liberty is not just a creative work, although its creator Frederick Augusta Bartholdi registered his Statue of American Independence on August 31st, 1876. It's a promise. It's a promise of freedom and inclusion. Copyright reflects that promise by registering a broad range of creative works, providing people from all backgrounds an incentive to tell their stories, an opportunity to inspire others with their experience. It requires little more than a spark of creativity. Emma Lazarus, a Jewish writer, is known as part of the late 19th century literati, including Ralph Waldo Emerson and James Russell Lowell. She was a prolific writer in multiple genres and a political activist. She wrote the sonnet after some persuasion by friends for an auction to raise money for the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. Written on the heels of the Chinese Exclusion Act, she made an important plea to Americans, to the government, and to everyone who wanted the statue to stand as a representation of the promise of America, New York Harbor. Not like the brazen giant of Greek frame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sun gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your stories pumped, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. All right, some more interaction. How many of you have seen the Statue of Liberty, other than this picture? Yeah. Did she inspire you? You can answer that later. All right. So what exactly is copyright? It's a type of intellectual property, protecting original works of authorship fixed in a tangible medium of expression. So let me break that down. Copyright protection on a work only requires a few minimal standards. A human must independently create the work. So no monkey photos and no elephant trunk paintings. The work must possess a minimum amount of creativity. So it can't be a title or a short phrase or a common symbol. The work must be fixed in a tangible medium. That means it's written down or documented or recorded in any way in some form. Copyright initially vests with the author or creator of the work. And there's a bundle of rights that make up the copyright. To reproduce the work, to distribute the work, the right to have the work displayed or publicly performed, the right to prepare derivative works, and to perform publicly digital audio transmissions of audio recordings, of sound recordings. These are your bundle of rights that make up copyright. The Copyright Office is, among other functions, is an office of record. We hold 41 million catalog cards, from registration dating way back to 1870, when copyright was centralized at the Library of Congress, instead of those registrations at the various district courts. And million more works in our public catalog covering from 1978 to today. In addition to being a writer, satirist, publisher, and many other jobs of Samuel Clemens, who wrote books under his pen name, Mark Twain, he was also an advocate for copyright protection and often spoke on the importance of copyright protecting his livelihood. He especially pushed for international copyright relations. Before passing the International Copyright Act of 1891, Twain would regularly travel to Canada to secure copyright protection for his works in Canada and the UK. He also urged Congress to get rid of copyright's two-term system and pushed for one single term based on the life of the author plus 50 years. It's something that took the U.S. Copyright Office another 100 years to adopt. As mentioned earlier, copyright is for all. There's no age limit for copyright. I see some young people out here. As such, all creators, regardless of age, are able to register their works. I don't know if you've heard of this book, maybe not. A Face Without Freckles is a Night Without Stars, which is an old Scottish or Irish axiom. It's a short book of verse celebrating freckles. The author may be recognizable now as the Duchess of Sussex, but Meghan Markle created this work as part of an 8th grade school project and registered the work while still a high school student and really unknown in the world. Her registration and the work was discovered by a staff member after she became famous. So some more hand raising here. How many of you ever wrote a story in school? Yeah. I don't know if it was good as Meghan Markle's book, but the Copyright Office safeguards millions of works representing the country's creativity through its holding of copyright deposits. That is, the works themselves, the creators register with our office and they send to us as part of their copyright registration. As discussed earlier, copyright protection protects works, but it also limits protection for limited times. The first law in 1790 held 2 terms of 14 years apiece, and authors had to follow very strict formalities to maintain their rights. Today, the law protects works the moment the work is created and fixed in a tangible medium of expression, as I discussed, written down, somehow documented electronically. And the length of copyright is for the entirety of the life of the creator, plus an additional 70 years, so 20 more than Mark Twain advocated for. When the term is over, the work becomes part of the public domain, and anyone can freely use it without restriction. Works in the public domain often inspire new works, adaptations, and more, further enriching the country's cultural landscape. We all know that Frank Baum wrote The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and that was in 1900. It spawned, in its time, while still under copyright, derivative works, where permission had to be granted for its use. There was a 1902 Broadway musical, and the well-known, and now shown on Thanksgiving weekend, 1939 film starring Judy Garland. By the time it entered the public domain in 1956, it had sold more than 3 million copies. In 1995, Gregory Maguire wrote the novel Wicked, a retelling of the story from the perspective of the witches. In turn, Wicked inspired music theater composer and lyricist Stephen Schwartz, with permission from Maguire, to create the Broadway musical Wicked, which has been running nonstop in New York City since 2003, except for our temporary COVID shutdown. In this graphic, we see that not only can public domain works inspire us, but these new works also raise interest in the original works, to go back to the primary source and enjoy the books all over again. And maybe inspire you to create a song, write a new story, create a new play, like the off-Broadway play, The Woodsman, which is a sort of prequel that tells the story, the backstory of the Tin Man. That play was, or musical really, it was inspired from just one paragraph in the book that tells us that the Tin Man was once a real man named Nick Chopper. In theory, the inspirations from Baum's books on the land of Oz will never end, as new and inventive stories continue to develop and, in turn, keep the original book relevant. From 1790 to today, copyright has continued to evolve. From books, maps, and charts to all of these works here on the screen: literary works, musical works, dramatic works, pantomimes and choreographic works, pictorial, graphic, sculptural works, motion pictures, sound recordings, architectural works. The law George Washington signed was 2 pages long, the front and back of a large sheet of parchment paper. Today, the copyright law is what, some 450 pages in length? But it's not 450 pages of restrictions. In fact, much of the law touches upon the user's rights, and there's other technical provisions that bring new technologies to us or allow us to have access to the full array of works. The Pulitzer Prize and Tony-winning musical Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda is a derivative work that parallels with the comprehensive biography Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. When Miranda read the biography, he imagined Hamilton's life as a musical with a twist. And only someone like Lin-Manuel Miranda could read a biography by Ron Chernow and envision it as a musical. And in that musical, it was a modern musical with modern styles and people of color as the historical figures. The goal, to make history relatable. And right within the musical about one of our country's founding fathers, we can see the evolution of copyright. In Hamilton times, copyright was limited to only a few types of works, books, maps, charts, and they added prints in his time. And we see the many types of works that are protected today. The script, the music and lyrics of the musical, the choreography, poster prints of the musical, advertising, original cast sound recordings, and on and on. Each of these new works have put together a musical about his life and brings that story to all of us. Today's Copyright Office is an important part of the copyright system, responsible for administering a complex and dynamic set of laws, advising Congress, the courts, and the executive branch, and participating in U.S. delegations to international meetings. The office also provides a variety of services to creators and users of copyright-related works and helps copyright owners keep their records up to date, preserving a public record of our country's creativity. My office, the Public Information Office, we're tasked with providing authoritative information on copyright law, regulation, office policies, and practices to the public. Sounds complicated. That's why we're here. That's why we're on the phones. We take your inquiries by phone. We take your inquiries by email. People even come on site at the Library of Madison building to talk with us. We even provide a service to walk creators through their copyright registration applications. Most recently, the Office of Records expanded the online recordation pilot for Section 205 documents, these are assignment documents, to everyone, making our record system even more accessible to all. Additionally, the law and regulations are dynamic, meaning they change with the times. And at each step, we ask for public involvement. We often hold roundtables and discussions on the law and regulations. Public comment periods are required as part of the process to promulgate regulations. And you can get involved. You can sign up for our Newsnet on our website and receive updates, usually 1 or 2 a month, regarding any changes to the law, to the regulations, to our office practices and policies. And we encourage feedback through our website. Right, George? We get them. We get our feedback. And we encourage comments to our office, not only about law and regulations, but just how well we're doing with our public outreach and our public services. We want to hear from you. The U.S. Copyright Office is a world leader in the administration of the Copyright Act, and we're here for everyone who raised a hand today. And we're here for anyone who didn't when you finally need us. Thank you for being here today. We invite you to the James Madison building at 101 Independence Avenue by appointment for a tour of our full permanent exhibit, Find Yourself in Copyright. We have staff docents ready to take you on another journey of our many artifacts full of interesting and surprising stories. Following this presentation, I'll be at the Copyright Office booth downstairs in the exhibit, where you can come and ask me any questions on copyright. We may have a little time for some Q&A here, we'll see. Our website is here, sorry. We have our web address here, where you can find our phone number to call us. You can also fill out a handy-dandy online form to send us your questions. Our office location hours are also posted. Thank you very much. We have one more little interactive thing for you. This is to see if you are paying any attention. So this actually was created, this is what I like to call the Great Copyright Quiz. It was developed by our stage MC, George Cheroni. It does 2 things for me today. One, it lets me know if I did a good job, because if you get the answers right, I did a good job. And it lets George know, who we are colleagues, but he's also he's also a supervisor of mine. So we ready for some trivia? No? All right. For a work to be protected under copyright, it must, A, be original, B, include a copyright notice, C, be of professional quality, or D, have a value of $35. Anyone remember the answer to that? A! Yeah, it has to be, A! It has to be original. A work is protected under copyright when the author mails a copy of work to herself. B, as soon as the work is created and fixed in any format. C, as soon as the work is submitted to the Copyright Office. Or D, once the work is published or displayed publicly. B, that's right, you got it. Answer is B. As soon as the work is fixed and created in any format. See, they were listening, George. I'm very happy. This is exciting. The Copyright Office was established in A, 1790, B, 1870, C, 1897, or D, 1909? A. No, that's when the first Copyright Act was written. It's actually kind of a trick question. Copyright was centralized in 1870 at the Library of Congress. But the one part I didn't include, and you would just kind of have to know this, so this was to see how much information you came in with, is that the Copyright Office became a separate department within the library, so it was within the library in 1870, in 1897. But had you been said 1870, you'd have been correct. All right, so I'll have to work on that slide next time. If a work is in the public domain, it means A, it exists on the internet, B, access to the work is free of cost, C, it's available at a public library, or D, the work can be freely copied and used. D, yes, that is correct. All those other things are myths. We hear about things all the time. It's on the internet. Never confuse the public domain with the domain of the public. That's two different things. What is the largest thing we think the Copyright Office has ever registered? Was it the Brooklyn Bridge, the St. Louis Arch, the Statue of Liberty, or the Disney Castle? C, yeah, we have a great thing at our, we have a great display at our exhibit all about the Statue of Liberty and its copyright registrations. So there she is right there. All right, and that is the, I'm gonna go back so that we can end with my ending thing. I should have put it at the end too. There we go. So how are we on time? 7 minutes. That's great. So if we have any questions, we have, you can come here. Also, following, I'll go downstairs to the booth in the exhibit hall if you have more in-depth questions. I also have some colleagues down there who can help you as well. So I'm glad to take questions.
Okay, hi. My name is Ben.
Hi, Ben.
And so to follow your talk, so you told us that copyright is to promote the progress of science and useful arts, from which we infer that if something does not promote the progress of science and useful arts, that copyright is unconstitutional, right? So, yeah, we can go through. Samuel Clemens actually did not endorse very long copyright. He had kind of a sarcastic bit about, yeah, you know, my kids are set based on my writing, but what about my grandchildren? How can they not have to work? MGM is very aggressive in enforcing copyright on its movie. So if you want to base something on the book, you better have some lawyers on hand to deal with MGM when they come at you. There's also, in the present day, I know you know about blurred lines. There are a lot of musicians who are very concerned about this. You know, what if somebody put in a fixed medium a song, they may not have even published it, but one day they come at us and say, well, your song sounds like my song. So does the Copyright Office, what does the Copyright Office see as too much copyright?
What does the Copyright Office see as too much copyright? In the end, that's the question, yes?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I gave you some examples.
So the Copyright Office's role is to administer the copyright law. Mm-hmm. So Congress writes the copyright law, but they enact and Congress enacts the copyright law.
And Library of Congress advises Congress on this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, are there points where they advise this is too much copyright? You know, Congress should not enact these things.
Right. So,
yeah.
Right. So, unfortunately, for me, as a staff member and as a federal employee, I'm not, by regulation, able to provide a legal opinion, my own. I can't opine.
Okay.
On that.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a
Oh, there we go.
Hi, sorry about that.
I'm like, where's the other mic? There we go. Hello.
Okay. Hi. So I am a museum curator, so I come up against the question a lot of fair use.
Okay.
How does the Copyright Office, like, where do they draw the line on fair use, I guess is my question.
So just for clarity, the Copyright Office doesn't draw the line.
Okay.
So fair use is a doctrine that in the 1976 Act, which went into 1978, was codified in there. And so the law gives states that there's certain things that can be of fair use, and there's a four-point analysis, and it's within law. I don't have that right in front of me, but there's essentially the courts would do a fair use analysis. To aid the public, so if you're in the public and you're saying, I need to know if the use, what I'm doing is fair or not, the Copyright Office, again, because we can't provide legal opinion, we can't provide you that for your specific situation, but we do have a fair use index, which is a resource on our website that provides cases that have gone to the courts. It's not comprehensive, but it's many relevant cases that have gone to the courts. You can pick and choose by like the topic, like what the type of work is. You can pick by the court, whether it's a district court or the Supreme Court, and you can look to see, look at the facts of the case. There's a summary kind of brief on there where you can click onto it, and it basically tells you this is what the main points were in the case, and this was the conclusion, whether the courts found that use to be fair or not. And so what really establishes fair use is in large part is case law.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're good. I think we're right there, yeah? Okay. Well, thank you all again for attending. I just want you to know that at your seat there's a lanyard, and you're free to take the lanyard home with you and enjoy. I appreciate you suffering to my presentation today. And if I did a good job, please let my supervisor know. And if you are walking around the book festival in the next half hour up to an hour, and you have questions, actually we have staff there all day, but down at the library's booth in the exhibit hall, I'll be there for about at least 30 minutes, but I also have staff there up until the end who can answer your copyright questions. So if you're walking around and go, oh, I just thought of something, we have people who can help you. So visit us on the web, send us emails, call us, however you wish. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.